the pre-countdown noises out of John, lads. If they would curl your hair. Welcome back. It is the StatrCast, the podcast from the lads at StatrDraft Fantasy Football, but done better. Keep an eye on us and watch out for us over at StatrDraft.com. That's STATRDRAFT.com. It's where the good fantasy football info actually is. And here's the guy that most of it comes from, joined as always by John, and as per usual by our Gary. I don't know. It's been a weird week to have manager in your job title and be disliked by Arsenal fans. I'm feeling kind of scared.
Do you know what? This is perfect fucking timing because I actually wrote an article during the week on how many Premier League clubs are potentially in the market for a manager in the summer. Now, one of them pulled the trigger quite early this week, which we kind of saw coming. And I will say, while Igor Tudor has been shit, the circumstances of the passing, sorry to hear that, but also at the same stage, you were leaving the Premier League with 1 point out of all your games. That 1 point was against Liverpool of all teams.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on it there.
We'll get into it, but I'll just give everybody the running order. So we're going to talk Spurs. We're going to talk the manager situation in Spurs because that's moving fast. We're going to look at Ireland and I suppose all of our sadness and heartbreak and the hope and the going again in 2 years, and then we have a nice little piece that we're going to look at. So we did a short from last week's podcast actually where we were saying that there is key players to be looking at over the next few weeks in the run-in based on the internationals and who's looking for seats on planes and So we're going to look at some of our kind of top picks from that. And if there's time, I'm going to let Gary rant about Mo Salah because we actually haven't let Gary rant about Mo Salah. So there's a little ad hoc topic if we get there. If not, I'll let Gary wax lyrical next week. But for now, Spurs.
Spurs. I mean, it's very Spursy. Like, look, the first thing to say is, and you touched on it there in the intro, John, obviously massive condolences to Igor Tudor. The timing couldn't be worse. The man is going through some very genuine real life stuff right now. And I think for that reason, to be fair, the internet has mostly been a little bit of a kinder place to a sacked manager than it would be. That notwithstanding, it was not a good run, and it was going to come to an end regardless of his personal tragedy, and came to an end outside of his personal tragedy. I don't think it worked from the start. I didn't see any improvement in either the output from the team or the visible attitude from the players. There didn't seem to be a higher work rate. There didn't seem to be more energy brought to the game.
I saw it twice. I did see
it
you? Twice. The game against
the Europe game.
And the second game against Atletico. And the second game against Atletico, and probably 60-odd minutes of the first leg of Atletico, but I'm sure the damage was already done in that game. I think that had less to do with the manager and more to do with personal pride, if I'm completely honest here. Like we've said this before, we're about 6-7 weeks out from the Premier League season ending. We're 6-7 weeks out from the World Cup squad. There's a lot of players in that squad who are hoping for, get into international squads or trying to play a peak performance so they don't get fucking relegated. Because Spurs will have it in their contract that it's like 30% wage drop for relegation.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of those players that at the money that they're on that people are going to pay the going rate for them, especially in the championship. So this is mission critical period if you're Spurs. It's the right decision to make. But the candidates, lads, are...
Well, you say, John, you're saying that it was the right decision to make to get rid of him. I think it was the wrong decision to make to bring him in the first place.
I would agree with that.
The logic that was given at the time was he's done this before. And to be fair to him, Tudor has done this before, but he's done it in a league where he has experience. It's in Italy. He played in Italy. He's managed in Italy. He knows the Italian game inside out, and his style of play as a player and as a manager suits Serie A. It doesn't suit the Premier League. So for Spurs to make this decision to try and bring him in, to work magic was a stupid decision in the first place. It really was. But this is indicative of Spurs, and I've gotten some slack over this. This is not a dig at Spurs fans or Spurs, but the club is
rudderless at the minute.
If we're being honest, they've got delusions of grandeur. They really, really do. And
I'm assuming you saw the Ange Postecoglou interview.
The recent one where...
with the overlap, with the boys on the overlap. He went fucking...
Oh, he did. He said it's from the... Yeah.
He was
really?
Daniel Levy stood down, Since he stood down, nobody knows who's in charge of the football operations. Is it the Lewis family over in the States? Is it your man Patricio, who got a 4-month ban for illegally signing players, or the other sporting director that they hired to cover his job while he was suspended from FIFA operations? Who is it that's actually making the calls there? All over the pitch, all over the training grounds, they have the words "to dare is to do," and they don't. And he said, and when that is your ethos, and the one thing you don't do is to dare, and I won a trophy, and you sacked me, and I had to make a decision.
But this is exactly it, John. So this proves the point I was about to make. Spurs, in the traditional sense of a football club, are not a football club anymore. No. Spurs are a business and have built an arena for entertainment purposes, not for football. The football operation comes second to making money.
Go on, Jimmy. I'm seeing the face churning there. Hit that question.
I'm fine. I'm not a Spurs fan.
They're not over the last 18 months. They haven't become they're not a football club anymore. I would agree with what Gary's saying there. I don't think they're a football club.
Stick with me for a second on this, because this is not just me saying it for the sake of saying it and for kind of to get a reaction. It's not. They've gone and they've built probably the best arena in Britain. They really have. The arena in, the Tottenham Hotspur Arena, whatever it's called anymore, essentially White Hart Lane's replacement, is an absolutely phenomenal facility.
It's one of the best stadiums.
It's a blueprint for every big club to follow. It really, really is. It's a fantastic facility, but it wasn't built for football only, or as football as the priority. Okay,
no.
They have the facility to roll in an NFL pitch, so they're going to get NFL games every year, which is going to make them money. They've had multiple concerts played there, to the detriment of the footballing facilities over the last 9 to 12 months. That facility is there to make money, not to enhance the football operation, and that is the root problem with Spurs right now. The football operation comes second to making money, and that is a recipe for disaster.
It's the same way that Manchester United. It's the same way that Manchester United under Woodward's stewardship, it was commercial operations number one, football operations number two, and over the last maybe 2 to 3 years, it's I agree with a lot of what Gary's saying here. I think it's since they've moved into that new stadium in 2019, they have They've won 50 odd home games, and we're talking since 2019 here. This season alone, they have more managers than home wins. This season, like
Jesus.
it's really
it's a money making 10 home wins a year.
So can I just ask, right? Because but Troy, I'm confused. Okay, we're saying that Spurs are largely a commercial entity and they are self-perpetuating financially at the expense of football as their primary focus. Is this something that's true to a degree of all of the big six clubs, and it's just highlighted because Spurs aren't getting the results, or is it particularly bad at Spurs?
Right, Spurs have one of the best training facilities in world football. They have one of the best stadiums in world football. They are critically known for having a poor wage structure in terms of bonuses, and like their base salary isn't actually that bad in the Premier League. But if you look at their wage budget, it's in line with Everton and Newcastle. Like it's in that kind of pocket. So they're in that 8th to 10th in terms of salaries, while still considering themselves a top 6 club since the Pochettino Champions League final, that they refused to invest in the squad under their golden generation of Dele Alli, Harry Kane, Son, who over the last few years have obviously whittled away and have been replaced by Dom Solanke, James Maddison. And this isn't critical of these guys. They're coming in to do a job. But right now, like everybody at Spurs, and my father included being a Spurs fan, buzzed when Daniel Levy stepped down. Because they were like, cool, the football club isn't going to be about penny pinching and maximising profitability. We can actually now invest back in players and in the football facility. And Daniel Levy was known worldwide for being one of the hardest negotiators in football. It was for the good and the bad. For the good and the bad. What was the best for Tottenham was the best for Tottenham, and I didn't get it. And that's why Harry Kane signed a 6-year deal and shit like this. But since he stepped down, there's no guiding light. There's nobody who's gone, the buck stops with me and I make the decisions, and you can see it. Like who hired Tudor? Like if that was Gary, if that was Liverpool, we'd know that was the Three Kings.
You'd know exactly.
If it was Manchester United, you'd know it's Wilcox and Barada. If it was Arsenal, it was,
This goes back to your point, though, Jimmy. I mean, like every club in England has, every big club. When you were talking like Liverpool, United, City, even Brighton, and that's not a dig, but they all have the ability to use their facilities for commercial gain. Brighton have had concerts at the Annex. Liverpool do it every year during the summer at Anfield. United do it at Old Trafford. City, everyone does it, but it's all secondary revenue to football. And I'm including United in that. I know over the last couple of years they've probably tried to be more a commercial entity, and they're starting to realise that that's not the case. And while football suffers, overall commercial revenue will suffer. Spurs, on the other hand, just think that because they're getting so many different revenue streams from their facility that they can let the football suffer. Spurs are in serious, serious danger right now of falling into the trap of Leeds, Sheffield Wednesday, Coventry, all of these historical big clubs who have disappeared off the face of the earth for the last 15 years.
Newcastle, West Ham, and Leeds being the three key ones to me of teams who, historically big teams, who spent a couple of years out of the Premier League, and have they really come back to their
clubs? There's so many examples. Like I could spend the next 45 minutes listing examples of clubs like this. You can add Aston Villa into that, who disappeared for a number of years.
Yeah. Can I throw Derby into the mix there? It's a club with a proud history. Yeah, okay.
Forest into the mix. Like there's enough clubs who actually historically are more successful than Spurs have been, who have fallen into this trap of football comes second, and we're too big to go down. No such thing.
I will proviso this with, I actually still do not think Spurs will go down now that they've made this call to get rid of him.
It depends. It all depends on who they bring in, John.
And this is what we want to talk about.
Let's go there.
Cool. So on the article that I wrote, I had Enzo Maresca and Marco Silva. They were the outside bets in around 14-1. I'm very happy that Marco Silva is going to stay until summer at least. Maresca never looked like a fit to me. Harry Redknapp, Ryan Mason, get the Spurs boys in as a temporary fix. Pochettino.
Ryan Mason, just before you go any further, Ryan Mason would be a good fit for them though, because he has championship experience, and that could.
Is that a dig at our mate on Instagram who doesn't like you?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Mauricio Pochettino, essentially, his name was on the list as if they were able to stay up, he would actually come away from the States after the World Cup. He's already said he'd love to go back, but it doesn't look like the timing is going to be right there. Adi Hütter is another one on the list. And then you had Roberto De Zerbi and Sean Dyche. Now, it looks like it's Roberto De Zerbi, he's too Italian. Now, this comes with good and bad. On the good, he's a very good manager. He plays a lovely style of football. On the bad, you have a fan group who's already said, please don't give us the guy who went and signed Mason Greenwood and has publicly defended him. You have his track record, a year and 7 months at Brighton, a year and 3 months at Marseille. He has, in his managerial career, not managed 2 seasons or more. And in order to get him before the end of the season, because he's already said, I don't want it until the summer, in order to get him in now, it's a 5-year contract they've, by all accounts, put on the table.
Yeah, I've never heard of
2 years at a club.
My buddy Bob doesn't get no 5-year contracts, or at least he doesn't fill them. Just for clarity, Roberto De Zerbi is why I support Britain.
Yes.
Because when football was on in my workplace that shall remain nameless, yes, I get to watch football at work. It's the best job ever. I liked how they played. I liked that it was attacking, and that kind of drew me into the black hole, the rabbit hole of like, what's this WM business? Why do you invert your fullbacks? That kind of thing, right? And I liked that De Zerbi clearly didn't let his boys stop. I like the pace, I like the energy, and I like the results, to be honest with you. Brighton got to play Europe that year. But he does not strike me as the solution, because I think he requires one of two things to transform Spurs. He wants either some highly, highly motivated players who are ready to follow him into the gates of hell and will put up with him tearing off his shorts to throw at them from the sideline, or he needs to be able to threaten them. It's either the carrot or the stick. He needs to be able to threaten them with rotation. like Stevie Wonder can see the squad depth isn't there with the current raft of injuries at Spurs. So what he's got is players who are in a losing attitude going, oh, how long does the next one last? Oh, you're going to drop me, are you? Who are you going to play? The corner flag? Like, I don't see how even a shall we say, strong personality like De Zerbi wins over the dressing room enough to keep them up.
I don't think he actually needs to. The reason why I think this will work as a temporary, I think he can come in, do enough to keep them up, because it's a case of the reason why they're giving him the contract is that there's no option for tools down. If you don't do it over the next 7 weeks, I will personally dump you out of this fucking place in the summer and replace you, because I'm the fella that's here for the next few years and you can go do one. He also is a good enough manager and well-renowned enough that if you're a player and you've just had Igor Tudor telling you whatever the fuck he was telling you, having De Zerbi coming in going, we're going to go play football, and it's a match that works with the way Tottenham historically play. Like, he would match with the Spurs way of attacking high intent, winger type football. Get the ball, get it forward, and let's play front foot football. That is historically the Spurs ethos.
But who are the wingers? I mean, we've been here for 31 weeks, and anytime Spurs come up, we have talked about the complete lack of transition from back to front.
Yeah.
That there's nobody to feed the striker in the absence of Kulusevski, who is, by all accounts, he says on Twitter his knee is fine now. Mm-hmm. But like, he can't make players out of nothing. And I still don't think that the style that De Zerbi plays for, that lovely wide go at them and fucking press high, I don't think that works with the players he has right now.
I think he'll do it. I think he'll do it with the fullbacks.
So who's playing full? Who are the fullbacks?
Pedro Porro and Jed Spence.
Jed Spence.
Jed Spence and Pedro Porro.
I'm surprised every week I hear that Jed Spence shows up for training.
Yeah, me too, but he's also an England international.
Pedro Porro, I'll give
sure.
you Porro. Sorry, I have to cut in here because I'm in agreement with Jimmy, which is what them is wonderful. I know. This does not. I don't see this working. Like, De Zerbi is a phenomenal manager. I'll agree with you there. He plays lovely football. I'll agree with you there. That's not what Spurs need right now. They need somebody to go in and literally give everybody in that dressing room a kick up the hole.
Given the options that are there, would you rather De Zerbi, Sean Dyche, Ryan Mason, Enzo Maresca?
Sean Dyche needs.
Yeah.
He is the man to go in there, give everybody a kick up the arse, play proper Sean Dyche football, keep them solid.
4-4-2, Solanke and Richarlison, and we'll play off you two. And hopefully.
Yeah. One of the things I remember you saying, John, a long way back on this here podcast was we were talking about goalkeepers. And you said, if you're in a high-stakes penalty shootout, who do you want behind you more than Emi Martinez? And the answer is absolutely nobody. I think if you're in a high-stakes relegation battle where the financial stakes for a money-focused company/club are so high, the man you want is Dyche. He's not a miracle worker, but it doesn't have to be a miracle. All they have to do is not drop any further. Yeah. It's not like, this isn't we're coming from 19th place and we want to get to 15th. This is stay at 17th. Stay ahead of 3 other guys, right? I think it's Dyche, because I'd love to see De Zerbi at Spurs to see how he transforms it with a budget and a summer window and bringing in some of his own people. Please stay away from Brighton. But I think right now, this is Dyche ball, man. This is park 2 buses and another on top.
I would actually argue that would make sense as a plug. I would argue it makes sense as a plug, but I can see the logic here of going, he's a good enough manager that if he can't get the smoke of these lads to pull the finger out, nobody else is going to, because he's a bigger profile of manager as well than Sean Dyche. And I mean this in all due respect to Sean Dyche, Roberto De Zerbi is a bigger profile of manager. If he can't gas these lads up enough, then nobody else has a chance here. Like, if he's coming in going, like, you know what I'm like, you know what I do, you know I'm a good manager, you know exactly what I'm all about. If you can't do what I'm doing, like, if he can't go in with his profile versus Sean Dyche's profile, he should automatically garner more respect than a team that believes they should be above. Sean Dyche coming in just solidifies this mentality in the fan base and in the player that we're fighting for survival. Versus,
see, for me now, De Zerbi comes in and he tries to give them all a kick up the hole, and a Richarlison, a Solanke, a Van de Ven, whoever, Porro, just kind of go, yeah, whatever. I don't think So somebody going into that job needs to carry an element of fear with them. He needs to walk in there like they own the place. I'm not sure whether or not he has the stature to do that. Whereas a Sean Dyche won't have a problem with. Sean Dyche strikes me as the sort of man who'd give you a clip around the ear if he thought you needed it. Don't think De Zerbi does that, and I think that's exactly what Spurs need right now. De Zerbi is absolutely a better appointment for long term. If we were sitting here in 3 months' time and Spurs are still in the Premier League and they're looking for a manager, I'm saying De Zerbi all day long.
Yeah, Dyche today, De Zerbi tomorrow.
He has a budget and he has,
The problem is Spurs have already. The flip side thing is Spurs have already tried the short-term appointment in terms of get Igor Tudor until the end of the season. If you're doing another till the end of the season, you've already shown that dressing room isn't going to wake up for a fella that is there till May. So you have. But I think risk or reward here. It's risk or reward. Back to what I said at the start. Tudor was the wrong appointment at the time. Dyche should have been the appointed at that time. He should never be appointed for the rest of the season. And he should go in there and absolutely bring blood and thunder with him and scare the living crap out of every player that's in there, and they're in there playing for their career, or you can sit on the bench for the next 3 years. And it looks like it's going to be De Zerbi, but knowing De Zerbi as well, this could all change in the next 24 hours.
Who knows?
So according to Sky Sports, the 5-year contract has been given, or not been given, been offered rather. So that was reported on Sky Sports
That's that
this afternoon. So it looks like it's going to be De Zerbi. It's going to be very interesting to watch over the next few weeks.
No, it could also turn around in the next 24 hours and go, no. And then we're back to square one, and this conversation is completely moot by the time we even publish. So who knows? But, Jimmy, you made an interesting point there, and this is how I'm going to transition. You said if you're in a penalty shootout, there's one goalkeeper that you want. Semi-Martinez. The next best in terms of the Premier League, in terms of goalkeepers I'd want the penalty shootout, is the one, the only Mr. Caoimhín Kelleher. And I think it's fair for us all to say he did his fucking part.
3 broken hearts here, I believe, gentlemen. Just to bring the listeners up to speed, if somehow you've been under a rock or you've found us many, many months or years down the road on a dusty corner of YouTube, Ireland are out of the World Cup playoffs, having lost to Czechia on penalties. 2-2 draw in normal time, and then 5-4 loss on penalties, I believe, with 2 saved by the Czech goalie and 1 saved by Caoimhín. It's a terrible way to go out of anything. It's a terrible way to lose anything. I would also like to point out a very strange statistical anomaly, and I'm not going to draw any conclusions here, but our sometime host, my younger brother Dermot, since he showed up on Earth, Ireland have never won a penalty shootout. I'm not saying he's directly to blame, but I'm also not saying that. But yeah, it was an awful way to go out of the competition. Ireland were good for a while, and then they weren't very suddenly and made some very silly mistakes. Not pleasant watching, particularly the second half.
Go on his rant, but for me,
Gary?
I'll let Gary go on his rant in a second, but for me it was like the game against Portugal, the game against Hungary, and you can see that it's almost like we were all bitching about, the dentist for months, going, what the fuck? And it's almost like in those last couple of games, you could see the work he was doing start to take a shape. And I was like, we're starting to take a shape. And then this game happened, and we went 2-0 up so early. And then Ryan Manning had a moment of fucking head loss, and suddenly the momentum all shifted. And I still thought, even in injury time, it was... My sister doesn't watch football, and she watched it extra time, and she was like, is that what it's like all the time? She was, I had no idea what was happening, but it was here, and then it was there, and then it was a post, and then it was a crossbar, and then it was a save. And I was panicking. She was like, I don't know how you get through. If that's what football's like every week, I don't know how you survive this long. My birthday's at the end of this week. And she was like, I don't know how you've survived this fucking long if that's the game of football you watch. I was like, thankfully it's not like that every week. But here's the thing, Kim. It's the hope that fucking kills you.
Yep.
So, Gary, over to you.
It absolutely is the hope that kills you. It really, really does. And look, for me, the first thing I'll say is, let's put this in perspective. We came within the width of a post of playing tomorrow night for a place in the World Cup. If Malumbi's shot at 2-1 goes 3 or 4 inches to the left and it's in the bottom corner, I think we go on and win that game. But
Nathan Collins' volley in the first half as well off the crossbar.
Nathan Collins' volley in the first half, if that hits the crossbar, we're 1-0 up at that stage. But I think a 2-1, if it goes to 3-1, that's the bigger one for me out of the two. That then I think it's done, because Czechia were there for the taking. They absolutely were there for the taking. And I'm not gonna blame any player here. I know, John, you've mentioned Ryan Manning had a moment of madness. Every player who's ever played football at any level, be it amateur all the way up to professional, at some point is going to have a moment of madness. It happens. It's a team game, though, so I'm not going to sit here and blame anybody in particular. Absolutely not. But what I will say is that last Thursday night is indicative of where we actually are as an international football team, right? Yeah. I sat here after the games against Hungary and the games against Portugal and said, this is actually starting to make a bit of sense now. You know, the dentist is actually making some progress here. I actually think now that I'm questioning that again. And the reason I'm questioning it again is great wins against Hungary and great wins against Portugal, but take the situations into account. We had nothing to lose. We went out in those two games with absolutely nothing to lose. We went out and played with no fear because, hey, you're already on the edge of the cliff and you're teetering. So you've got two choices. You can either try and pull yourself back or you're going to fall over. You've nothing to lose. And we went into the game on Thursday night in a very similar fashion. Nothing to lose. And for the first 20 minutes, we played like we've nothing to lose. And then all of a sudden we go 2-0 up and it's like, uh-oh.
Now we have something.
Panic.
And you could see the fear.
Yeah.
We went 2-0 up and you could see the fear creeping in. Everyone has talked about Hallgrímsson and he's brought in this, no fear attitude, and the confidence of the team has gone through the roof and whatnot. And you've seen that for the 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden, reality kicks in. We could end up losing this from 2-0 down, and everybody withdrew into themselves, and that's how Czechia got back into the game. Biggest problem we have as an international footballing team right now is we do not have any leaders in that team. We do not have a Mick McCarthy at centre half calling the shots. We do not have a Roy Keane kicking people up the backside when they need to be.
I will absolutely send you fucking down on that Seamus Coleman.
Seamus Coleman was not vocal enough. I'm not going to criticise, because to be fair to him, he's played half an hour of football probably all season and he put nearly 100 minutes in, and the man deserves to have a statue outside of the Aviva for that alone. His effort on Thursday night was impeccable. It really, really was. Was he there shouting and screaming at people and bringing them back into it when the fear kicked in? I didn't see it.
I think him and Ogbene were the only... during that period that you were talking about, him and Ogbene were if we were going to get anything, up until they went off.
Stood up.
Like, when I saw Bennett go off, I was like, you just took him off after rinsing the fullback again. I know he was on his knees. But I was like, just leave the two boys out there doing what they're doing. If we have to wrap them in ice baths for the next 4 days for Denmark, fucking do it.
Don't worry about
worry about the here and now. And
you get there,
that's the only thing I will disagree with you on. I don't think Coleman's style of captaincy is screaming and shouting. I think it's more that, one-to-one basis stuff. And I think you can see the respect.
That's not what was needed. That's not what was needed on Thursday night. What was needed on Thursday night was somebody to do what Coleman was doing, absolutely, but also to go, lads, get your shit together. You need
to central midfield more than anything, though, in my opinion.
But I think that it's a general either at centre half or in midfield. I've always been of the opinion your captain needs to be either centre half or midfield, because they can see everything that's going on, or can be close to everything that's going on. I've always been of that opinion. You'll never change me on that. Nathan Collins, great player, great defender, not the most vocal of captains, and that's where you needed. He needed to be talking to everybody on Thursday night when the shit started hitting the fan and things started going south for Ireland at 2-1. He needed to be the one to go, right, lads, calm it down. We need to actually even just play a couple of simple passes, get ourselves back in the game. When we went in at halftime 2-1, that was the perfect opportunity for even somebody on the management team, be it Hallgrímsson, be it John O'Shea, or somebody on the pitch like a Collins or a Coleman, to say, right, lads, calm it down. We're still in this. This team are here for the taking, and they absolutely were.
I get that. I do find Nathan Collins.
It looks like nobody did that. The fear kicked in, and
do you know what? I get what you're saying. Brazil. I get what you're saying, but I think it was more an air of, I feel like that kind of that ranting raving style thing might have actually put more fear in rather than. I like Nathan Collins' captaincy style. Like, you don't be a captain of a Premier League team at his age, you know, if you're not a leader of men. Like, he's a young centre half and he's already a captain of a Premier League team. I think the idea there was calm, cool heads rather than fucking and shaking the life. You know, what Spurs need right now is some people to shake them. I think Ireland at 2-0 up, they nearly needed someone to go.
But they needed somebody to communicate that. Then that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that you needed to. I'm not saying you needed to sit there and absolutely bawl everybody out of it. Fine. I'm not saying. But what I'm saying is, you needed somebody on the pitch who was willing to open their mouth and communicate with the rest of the team. I don't see anybody in that team who did. I didn't see anybody kind of in. You know, when things went right, they were all chest pumping each other and slapping each other on the back, and that's cool. You need that. That's brilliant.
You do need that.
But I think where we fell down on Thursday night wasn't a lack of effort. We don't have the biggest amount of quality playing ball, but the effort we have, and to be fair, that's been Ireland teams for a long, long time, and I've no issue with that. We play to our strengths, which is what international football is about. Our effort was impeccable. You can't question that. What you can question is the leadership within that squad.
I think you're right, Gary.
And I think it's a fair thing to say. Somebody needed to step up on Thursday night. And as you said, John, calm it down, go, lads, we're still in this. We just need to be able to spray a couple of passes together, keep the ball, push up a little bit further, don't keep retreating back into, because that's what was happening in the second half.
Yeah.
You've seen it, and on the opposite side, you've seen it with Czechia. Souček came on at half-time.
The second he came on at half-time.
And he made such a difference, because not only was he able to put his foot on the ball and kind of keep the play moving, but he was vocal. You could see him talking to players, because he has
discussed him about the West Ham.
He should be the captain of that team, and he's not. But that's a political thing within Czechia football. Fine, but you could see him taking a captain's role.
But do you know what? He was the captain of that team until this internal politics stuff. But also, we've actually touched on him before recently, that since he's come back into the West Ham team, him coming back into the team has coincided with their best. What was it? The last 12 games they've lost like 3, and that has coincided with him coming back in.
I called it.
This. He does the shit.
He's the one who gets stuck in. I don't want us to sidetrack into relegation again, but if West Ham are going to stay up this season, it will be Thomas Souček that does it by putting in the donkey work and the passion and the control and the calmness. Like, there's a version of that game the other night where, regardless of the error that Manning made, right, and it was a moment of madness, okay. But that doesn't happen. We just get ourselves together, a little bit of a slower pace, but still keep the pressure on. We're going into halftime 2-0 up. Now, the Czechs are still going to throw everything they have, and then you adopt your siege mentality, but you're 2 fucking goals up. Those 20 minutes, that's where it was lost for me. And I know then at 2-1, maybe there was a little bit too much entrenching in the second half. Maybe a little bit of get up and go at the attack might have clung back that lead. I understand the tactical decision to go, right, we're 2-1 up. It's half a game of football. Lock it down. It didn't work. It's a pity, to say the least. On the upside, though, I did a little bit of reading about the Euros, just a little, and it turns out we have this extra qualification thing. So for anybody who's like all for Ireland, which is all of us except some of us, the qualification for the Euros, we will still go through the group selection, and then there's a guaranteed 2 slots for 2 of us, England, Wales, and Scotland. Now, I'm no numbers expert, but to me, that's 4 relatively even teams, apart from England. And that, to me, sounds like a 1 in 3 chance at worst and a 1 in 2 chance at best of getting through.
Well, do you know what? I think we will get that slot, because it'll go to the lowest rank. If my interpretation is correct, and I might be wrong, I think it goes to the lowest placed of the teams, because essentially England are guaranteed to qualify, so they're not getting the freebie slot. So Scotland are in their golden era right now, with the likes of your McTominays and stuff like this. So they're the next best bet to get an automatic spot. So essentially should be between us and Wales. And if the coefficients are anything to go by, we'll be the worse off of the two. Now, I don't know if I'm right. I might be wrong in saying that, but I get the premise that essentially the home nations that they're trying to find a way of getting them all in as hosts because we're the hosts.
Yeah. And look, that's something to look forward to. Also, obviously, we have got a nice friendly tomorrow night against North Macedonia. If you need a fix and you want to see a game that we've probably will play with the pressure off a little bit, maybe the boys won't freak out so much. Might be a nice result there to watch. Maybe, hopefully.
It won't be this tomorrow night. It'll be experimentation football of rotate
it'll be planning for the Euro campaign. I would urge, I would 100% urge anybody who bought a ticket, because originally tomorrow night was meant to be the World Cup qualifier. I would urge anybody who's bought the ticket to go, and support, because to be fair, as I said, those lads put serious amount of effort in.
It might be Seamus Coleman's final hurrah. It might be Seamus Coleman's final hurrah at the Aviva.
But go support them, because to be fair, they've done something that hasn't been experienced since
Euros in
2016, was it? So in 10 years, they've managed to do something which is unite a lot of people into watching football who genuinely don't have an interest, and particularly at international football, which we know can be hit and miss at best. But for 2 hours on Thursday night, the majority of us were watching that and were glued to our TV. That hasn't happened since 2016, and it was probably even more intense than that because it's World Cup. As much as the Euros are, World Cup means more. And it means more because of Italia 90, USA 94, and Korea 2002.
The last time we were in a World Cup, I was doing my fucking communion. So it says everything you have to know. I remember
we were both doing the leaving, Gary, weren't we?
I remember the TV rolled into the fucking hall in the primary school. But anyway, speaking of international football, let's get back.
Hold on. Sorry. I'm taking a moment. Right? I need to address something that happened last week on this here show. Right?
I thought you were going to mention Liverpool-Brighton, but that's okay, move on.
What you mean when Brighton beat Liverpool? We'll get to that. No. Last week, for the avoidance of doubt and for clarity to some angry Arsenal fans, I portrayed, if there was a situation where Arsenal were to drop the 9 points that make them bottle the league, that it would be Man City, maybe Newcastle, and West Ham would be kind of funny. At the time, I think, guys, you might have missed that I wasn't saying I wanted this to happen. In fact, if you look back over our archive, all year I've been saying Declan Rice is phenomenal, Arsenal have the best defence in the league, their game is ugly but effective. I've said they're really, really good, really skilled, contenders for the Champions League, that they're a really, really strong team. And at the time, I wasn't saying that I wanted you to lose. But after reading your reaction last week and having to explain that to you slowly over and over again, let me be very, very clear. I want you to lose the Premier League, Arsenal. I want you to fail. I want to taste your London tears. That's all. Carry on.
Do you know what? I think that one was actually quite funny, because when you reference Danny fucking Dyer in a thing and people take it seriously, you're like, really?
Come on, lads, do better. Do better. I'm only playing.
You heard Danny Dyer in a prediction and went, do you know what? Fuck you. But anyway, it's like, listen to context. But anyway, speaking of which, we're obviously in the running of the Premier League. And I wanted to look at this because there is one of the videos last week that really popped off, and it was the analysis I've been doing all year about post-international break. The first week is all about stacking at the back because there's a mass reduction in goals. What I also tail-ended that with was, for the 6 remaining games after that, your key assets are going to be the guys who are on the fringes of international squads, because they have 6-7 games to earn their final opportunity for a seat in the plane. Now, doubling down on that, Thomas Tuchel has some very, very interesting things during the week to say about our good old friend Slabhead Harry Maguire, where he basically said openly he's England's 5th choice centre-back. He said, I think Gahey is fantastic. I think John Stones is our first choice if he's fit, but I also think he's just behind Ezri Konsa and Trevor Chalobah. I know what he can do in both boxes. I know what he can do at tournament football, but I would right now have Trevor Chalobah and Ezri Konsa ahead of him for mobility. So he's basically put the gauntlet down to Harry Maguire going, You're not getting on this plane unless you're the best of all those four for the next 6 weeks, or John Stones can't get fit, both of which are possibilities. So,
and Chalobah.
So this is what I'm saying. There is these guys like Harry Maguire, who is very aware of his current stipulation for the next 6-7 weeks, that he has to be on it. So I'm going to say I had a couple of fellas I wanted to flag, and the first one is Harry Maguire. I think he's getting a seat on that fucking plane. Watch him turn into. He's probably one in terms of centre backs in the Premier League, Gary. As much as you're not a Man United fan, I think you would agree he's one of the most clutch centre backs in the league. If you need a big moment right at the death, you want big Harry Maguire getting in the box or defending the box. He's the best penalty box.
I hate to admit it, but you're right. I don't think I've slated him plenty of times, but yeah, I think you're right, and I think you see him turn into old school Paul McGrath over the next 7 or 8 weeks.
Yeah,
because you're right, John. When managers come out and start saying things like this about players, it's an incentive. And this is probably Maguire's last shot at a World Cup, maybe.
Yeah, it is.
So, is he going to leave everything on the table over the next 7 to 8 weeks? He has to. If he wants to play in the World Cup, he has to. Yeah. And you've also got to consider he could be playing in a team that potentially is amongst the favourites for the World Cup, and it kills me saying that about England. But you have to consider them one of the favourites.
I think the things
you do. I'm sure we'll get into that as we get closer to the tournament. But
I think we'll obviously continue podcast. I think during the World Cup, because we have no skin in the game, we can just look at it purely objectively. We can look at that, for the laws and stuff like that. But I do think
to go back to it, I think Maguire plays seriously good football. If he's an option for you in fantasy, you need to look at him.
And I'd be looking at also coupling that with Man United's lack of FA Cup, lack of Champions League.
Yeah.
When you add all these up, if you're looking at a fantasy football asset, either in a starter model, a draft game, or across the street in FPL, like Harry Maguire, if you're looking at defenders for the next 5-6 weeks, I think you could do a lot worse.
Apart from this week, because he's suspended for a straight round.
Yeah, but I also said this is the week where you're just stacking defenders anyway. So take your pick on defenders as is, but for the following weeks after that, I think Harry Maguire, of the 5 I wanted to flag, I think he's pinnacle in terms of those, because England is his career. Like, Man United is secondary to England for him, and I think he will fight hell or high water to get that seat.
He's in the
His stats are also quite good. He's 70% aerial win rate this season. So the only defender statistically who wins more headers per 90 minutes is Dan Burn.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's always been the thing with Maguire, hasn't it? Like, it as a player, Maguire with the head, brilliant. Maguire with the feet was a problem, if I remember correctly. His style of tackling was to pass the ball to the other player and try and take it back.
It was never his feet. He's a great passer and a great progressor of the ball. His problem is he turns like a tugboat. So if you're playing up in the halfway line, you have a problem. But as a penalty box defender in both boxes,
absolutely,
probably should be their starter, but to get on the plane. So moving on from him, another one I wanted to flag, and I think it's a shootout. So I think I can wrap the two of these into one. It's Richarlison and Igor Thiago. They're both Brazilian, and the one thing that Brazil are kind of lacking right now in terms of their squad is an out-and-out 9. João Pedro is going to be the 10. Neymar, Estevão, Rafinha, like they have loads of wingers, 10s. They have loads of them, but what they're missing is the 9. Now, João Pedro does it at times, but Richarlison has actually a lot of caps for Brazil, and always
do it for Brazil as well. To be fair, he tends to do it for Brazil a little bit.
He does
do it for Brazil, but he also tends to.
He's not afraid of a big game.
Run a form coming in. He'll do fuck all, and we've all said this about him before. He goes missing for months, and then you get 6 or 7 games where you see the prickiest prick version of the prick that ever did prick. That's the version we're getting for the next 5-6 weeks. He might actually be the reason Spurs stay up, because he knows that Brazil squad right now, in terms of the row behind the 9, is so stacked that they might actually play someone else. Like João Pedro could play as the 9 so that they can fit Rafinha, Matheus Cunha, Neymar, Estevão, I'm not even listing all of them. Like, they have so much depth on the wings.
Isn't there that lad what plays for Madrid? Isn't there that lad what plays for Madrid?
Rodrigo.
And the other one, that one too. That's the one. Like they've no lack of firepower, but in that particular position, yeah, maybe Richarlison. But can I just ask, is Igor Julian, like, is a Brentford striker going to Brazil World Cup squad not a little bit too much of a bridge to gap?
So far this season.
Yeah, but Brentford. I mean, Danny Welbeck's been left behind because he doesn't get column inches.
Paqueta was also in that squad, by the way, when he was at West Ham. So they don't give a fuck as long as you, if you fit the system and what's very funny is Ancelotti has already told everybody his dead certs for his squad, and there's not many. Casemiro's in, end of discussion. Neymar's not even a guarantee, by the way, because he hasn't played enough over the last few years. No, he hasn't played enough football over the last few years.
Really?
So they could go with Vinny Jr., Mateus Cunha, and João Pedro. They could go with Endrick, Estevao, Paqueta. They could go. Do you know what I mean? They're fucking stacked in that row. So it's only Casemiro, Marquinhos, and Alisson who are dead certs to be playing every other position. So I'm expecting it a straight shootout between. I think Richarlison edges it because there's that known factor of. Do you know the way Giroud, we'd all say, meh, as a striker, he was good, super sexy.
Until he played for France.
Richarlison was signed by Ancelotti at Everton, though, as well.
He was as well.
They were together at Everton as well, so he has.
Well.
Sure, but Richarlison is not the.
Yeah, but Richarlison does the job for Brazil in terms of what, not the same, and just so everybody gets it, not the same as what Giroud would do for Brazil. But the idea is, by you being there and just being big and a nuisance and being able to bully and pin people back, that's going to allow more space for A, B, and C to do the real fucking damage, which is what.
See, I think
was for France.
I get your logic, I do. But I don't think Richard, and again, coming back to what's feeding him at Spurs, like I think Julio's going to have more moments to shine. He's going to have more opportunities to put the thing in the hole than Richarlison will because he's not on as shit a team. If I was choosing between one of the two right now, I'd take Igor Julio.
Igor Thiago.
Or Igor Thiago, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
forever
those are the next two I wanted to flag because I do think it's going to be one of the two. But I also fully expect Richarlison to be the one for the next 6-7 weeks who is going to be the one going, give me the fucking ball. I need to show everybody what I can do because he has form. He has form for this. Always when it's coming into international time, he turns on for the 2 or 3 weeks beforehand. It's almost like he protects himself all year and goes, okay, time to do it. This is the problem. Like he'll wake up when it's time to wake up. So he's my second one. Gary, agree, disagree there?
I would agree that I think Richarlison's going to turn it on for the rest of the season, and I probably would take him ahead of Thiago, just because he's been there, done it with Brazil. The problem or the concern I would have with Richarlison is you've got Dom Solanke in the Spurs team looking to do the very, very same with England.
And he was actually my next one. Because funnily enough, I have Dom Solanke, Ollie Watkins, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin as the three others. So again, Harry Kane's getting on that plane. Harry Kane is, if England get to a semi-final and Bayern win the Champions League final, Harry Kane's winning the Ballon d'Or this year, by the way.
Yeah.
He is my top three for a Ballon d'Or this year with his numbers he's put up. If Bayern win the Champions League and England at least get to a semi, Harry Kane gets the Ballon d'Or. So it's a case of Ollie Watkins didn't get into that 35-man squad, by the way.
Ollie Watkins
didn't get in. Danny Welbeck, move him out. He's not part of the equation. I still expect his form over the next few weeks to pick up to try and give a spot. But watch Dominic Calvert-Lewin, watch Ollie Watkins, and Dom Solanke.
Like, okay, Dom Solanke obviously has the Spurs problem as well, but the problem with Ollie Watkins is that he has no such excuse. He's playing on one of the best Villa teams that there has been in a decade. He's got plenty of firepower beside him and behind him. He's also having one of his worst seasons. I couldn't think, and I know we had this whole thing all season, or everything before Christmas, where every fortnight Aston Villa had a different star. It was very rarely Ollie Watkins. He really has not done enough this year to earn his spot ahead of, say, Solanke, who I think is shining on a poor team, whereas Watkins is muddy on a good team.
Of them, I would actually say the asset I would be least in line for of the three would actually be Solanke because of his injury rates. I wouldn't hang my hat on Solanke. He's not the one. If I was going picking my sleeper agent for the next few weeks in terms of the ones I want to pick, I'd actually be hanging on Ollie Watkins because he's been the one in the driving seat of that position. I think Tuchel nearly left him out and going, buddy, if you don't pull the finger out, here's 2 or 3 lads that will take ahead of you. And I think
who's the third man
similar
there?
to what he did with Trent. I think those two intentionally got left out with the idea of it's time to put up or shut up. So I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I would go Watkins, Calvert-Lewin, Solanke in terms of if I was picking.
It's similar to what we said about Harry Maguire. He's thrown the gauntlet down to Watkins and to Trent. We won't talk about Trent because he's not within the fantasy sphere for us, but it's a similar conversation, yeah. And I think you're right, John. I think you see Watkins go, hang on, lads, I have a chance to get into a squad that could potentially win a World Cup. But I think I think it's absolutely criminal that Welbeck's not in that conversation. You're talking about 3 strikers there, 3 England strikers to fill that set. There should be 4. And to be fair, I would actually have Welbeck above all of them because he's experienced. He has the form all season. I think he's a good voice in the dressing room. But I think you're right. Watkins and Welbeck are the 2 you probably look at for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I think pick up their form.
Calvert-Lewin has probably done what he's going to do. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin has probably done what he's going to do. That's no offense.
I
don't
think so.
We're talking here of you have a 6-week period to buy your seat on the plane.
I don't think so. I think Leeds are still hungry bastards. They're not going to take chances on sitting back. I think DCL is incredibly effective at what he does. It's not pretty, but it works. I think if he goes on another streak, like there's 7 weeks left in the season, I think you're going to see another 3 or 4 week DCL streak. If again, though, the concern about Solanke is equally valid for Calvert-Lewin. What's the injury situation? Because he's got knees made out of biscuits at this stage. Like, did Ancelotti sign him at Everton as well?
No, I think he was there. I think he was there already. Or possibly
okay, I'm just
on by Ancelotti. I can't remember exactly.
Just making sure we're not falling in love with Carlo Ancelotti. Anyway, for me overall out of those 3, it's Watkins, but it should be Welbeck.
Firmly thrown down. So I would be saying if I'm going for a pick for the next 6 weeks, even though his form has been rank, have a punt on Ollie Watkins.
It's DCL
Watkins,
for me.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin. If it's not Dominic Calvert-Lewin, it's Welbeck, and if it's not Welbeck, then it's Solanke. But of the 2, Spurs one, it's Richarlison over Solanke all day long in terms of
absolutely
what they have.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
internationals. He's closer to the plane, so watch him be the one that pops off. That's my.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. It's solid. It's absolutely solid. I would say Danny Welbeck, Uber Alles, Danny Welbeck until the end of time. Danny Welbeck made the sun and the sky, and they'll both go with him when he dies. And it's criminal that he's being overlooked, but I say that every week. Particularly because of how important it was when he was on the pitch and Brighton beat Liverpool. Gary.
Is there anybody else that you would flag? Because I don't want this to be like England central, but they seem like and because it's the Premier League, they seem like if I look through the teams, like let's go through Chelsea. I think anybody who's going on the plane there is kind of there, knows already they're on the plane. I think with Man United, apart from Harry Maguire and maybe a potential for Luke Shaw, I think everybody else knows that they're on the plane.
I'm going to throw it out there again. I'm going to say watch Phil Foden. In City's favourite time of the year, in Phil Foden's favourite time of the year, and with the stakes high for an England slot that is by no means 100% secure. Phil Foden, for the last 8 weeks of the season, keep an eye.
Yeah, well, they do have... They have Foden, Rashford, Bowen, Saka, Bellingham, Morgan Rogers, and they're not bringing all of them.
No, they're not. They can't.
I'm going to throw one more player at you, Anthony Gordon.
I was literally,
yeah.
He's and I think this might come down to one spot for 3 players, that being Gordon, Phil Foden, and Marcus Rashford. I think it's one spot for one of those 3. And if I'm looking at anybody right now, to be fair, I'm looking at Anthony Gordon because he's actually done really, really well over the last couple of weeks. He's turned it on in the Champions League. Mm-hmm. He was one of the few Newcastle players who came out with much credit from the new camp after Barcelona. Him and Elanga, to be fair. But Gordon has been doing it for probably the last 8-9 weeks, and I'd expect him to do it for the next 8 to 9 to try and get on that plane.
I think that's fair. Like the only other one that I had, the only other ones that I had flagged were like, I had outside bets. If you get me, I had like, does Ryan have enough time to get a seat on the Brazil plane? I'm going to go straight up no. Miles Lewis-Skelly got thrown out as a name at me because the left back options at England seem to be Lewis Hall, Nico O'Reilly, Lewis-Skelly, Luke Shaw. So it's 2 and 4 there. I'm not that concerned about those ones. I'm not. If we're looking at players that I need to get into my fantasy team over the next 5-6 weeks, I think I'm happy enough with the ones we've covered. Like, unless there's any other ones.
I think Lewis Skelly is an interesting one, and I'll tell you why. I think Lewis Skelly is an interesting one, and I'll tell you why, right? I think he's a bit punty because I don't think he's getting on the flight, but I think he will probably put the work in, and he'll be given the opportunity to put the work in. And he's also, of everyone we have named, if you are playing draft, he's the one you get cheapest.
Actually, my final sleeper before I let you go, Ben White. He got on that, who was it? One of the fullbacks pulled out of the England squad. He actually was the next one to get a call up after having not played from since the last World Cup.
It was Reece James.
Reece James obviously was getting over his small little hamstring injury. He's definitely getting on the plane. But Ben White got called up ahead of Trent, so I think he's going to be the type of fella now that has bit between his teeth for the next few weeks. So he could be.
Ben White's the sort of player who can play across different positions in the back line.
And Timber's injured.
That is big when it comes to tournament football.
And Timber's injured, so he's going to play. He's probably not been high up the draft list because Calafiori, Timber, Gabriel Saliba, Hincapie has even played out there. I think Ben White's actually pretty much a nail on for the next 4 or 5 weeks. So
he is. And you know what? Like, I think he's come up in conversation maybe once or twice this season, and both times we kind of went, he's yesterday's man. You guys know I love me some Ben White. He was a mainstay in the Aristocrats for years, but he just wasn't doing it this year. In the few appearances, there wasn't much to shine. But you're right. I think looking at the current crop at Arsenal and the injury situation, it could be the right time for him. It's an outside bet, though, because he's a right back and Trent Alexander-Arnold exists.
Well, no, Tuchel thinks he's a prick, but I'm not actually. I'm not that bothered about that. But I'm looking at whether they get on the plane or not. They have 6 weeks.
Who tries? Yeah,
they have 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck if they get on the plane or not. That's not what we're here to talk about. Do they make the squad or not? I don't care.
For sure.
But I'm looking at, are these fellas that you want to be having a very, very good look at over the next few weeks? And I think the ones we've named, in terms of Richarlison, in terms of Harry Maguire, in terms of Ben White, in terms of Igor Thiago, in terms of, I think all of them. I think those would be my ones. I'm going to compile this all into an article as well, and it will be with the very big preface of, I don't give a fuck whether they get on this plane or not. It's not. It's you have a month to earn your seat on the plane. Are they going to fight the assets? And I think those are the ones that I'm going to pick out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Bart. I'm going to say DCL, but bar that, I'm with you. Yeah, 100%. They're definitely ones to keep an eye on. You've picked it apart nicely, and I see what you're going for. You're going for the boys who are going to put the work in the last lap, and I love it. Where would I read such an article, John?
Would you believe that we have this lovely little website that is called StatrDraft.com, STATORDRAFT.com. I have a bunch of articles up there at the moment in terms of who the manager merry-go-round in the summer, the 8 teams that are in the market for him, or potentially. I have a good in-depth run-in of Arsenal and City's run-ins. We'll get this article up in the next day or two. And then obviously you can find us on all the social media channels. Like, we're there on YouTube, we're there on Instagram, where Gary and Jimmy get heavily involved in the comments over there. You have us on TikTok, where I also do a live recording on the weekends. Lovely community building up there with a bunch of lads and lasses who come in every week for the chits and chats, and bits and bobs, which is really, really cool. And I think Gary, I have a topic for you next week, because this weekend we have the FA Cup, right? So Gary, I'm going to challenge you, and I want you to come back to me with your 10 Premier League players of all time, and see where Mo Salah gets into it.
Only 6 of them can be Mo Salah. And only 9 of them can be Liverpool.
Because I've heard some really
interesting... Top 10 of all time.
Yep.
Premier League era.
I've heard a lot with Jamie Carragher over the last few days in terms of, he's second foreign player after Henry, or he's definitely top 5. I would have had Kevin De Bruyne ahead of him, but we're not going to get into that today. But I would like each of you to come back over the next week with your top 10 Premier League players of all time.
Whoa.
Myself and Gary are going to come back with the top 10 Premier League players of all time, compare and contrast our list, and Jimmy, you'll get the deciding vote.
No, you know what? I'm gonna do a top 3.
Deal.
And I guarantee you,
1 to 11, or are we just picking Does it matter position?
No, just top 10 Premier League players of all time.
I love this homework. Thank you. I'm gonna enjoy.
We're not doing Premier League 11. We're just doing 1 to 10.
Top 10.
I'm gonna do a PowerPoint with a soundtrack.
That one's gonna. It's an FA Cup weekend, so we have another week with no Premier League football. So I think that's a good topic based on Mo Salah riding off Virgil van Dijk following the gap in the next 3 weeks. But watch this space on that one. Anyway, on that, I have nothing more for you. It's been a lovely chat on this Monday afternoon.
It's been a pleasure, lads.
On the boys in green against the Macedons. We'll see you next week, lads.